Kia ora koutou. We've just gone 2 o'clock, so we'll get this meeting of the Community and Services Committee underway for today. Councillor Fergan, the Chair. All questions directed to the Chair, please, councillors. Good afternoon, kia ora koutou to General Manager of Community and Services, Ken Bailey. Good to see you again, Ken. Of course, our councillors on this committee, Cody Tucker, Barry Bruce, Matt Wong and Lisa Guy. Good to see you all again. Afternoon, staff. Nice to see you here. And also any media that might be viewing this a bit later on in the day. Welcome aboard. Great that you're taking interest. First off, I'd just like to welcome Sarah Brady, our Governance Advisor, onto the Community and Services Committee for the first time and other committees within Council. So, Sarah, thank you for your work so far and I hope you enjoy your time here. Right, we'll get on to the agenda. And first off, it's apologies. And as we know, our Deputy Chair, Councillor Whitehead, I think she's currently cycling in Portugal. She's an apology for the meeting, so we need a resolution around it. Would somebody like to move the acceptance of the apology? Yes, Councillor Wong. And seconder? Councillor Tucker. Thank you. All those in favour to accept the apologies or the apology from Councillor Whitehead in favour? Hands up. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest? No, no conflicts of interest. Thank you. There are no matters lying on the table this afternoon, so no resolution is required. We've got no registrations for the public forum. So we move to the confirmation of the agenda that's in front of us. A resolution is required that the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bruce, thank you. A seconder? Thank you. Councillor Tucker, thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. There were no apologies for the previous meeting and therefore no one is excluded from moving or seconding or voting. The resolution required is that the minutes of the 16th of May 2023 Community and Services meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record. Mover?
I just have one slight typo amendment where it talked about Councillor Guy and the centennial arches. Should be centennial larches, trees, not type structures. So thank you.
Noted. Trees. Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guy, a seconder. Councillor Wong, in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Right, we will get on to the items that are in front of us as the Community and Services Committee this afternoon. Item number 1 is the Cemeteries Bylaw Review. The report's author is Carrie Williams, and Carrie and Erin are here from Council. Erin being a policy advisor who will be presenting the report. Join us at the table. Thank you. Just to read, the purpose of this report is to present the Community and Services Committee with proposed changes to the Cemeteries Bylaw 2017 and seek that the committee recommend that Council endorse the proposed changes for formal consultation via the special consultative procedure. The committee notes that, or the resolution required is that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, 2, recommend to Council that it endorses the draft Cemeteries Bylaw 2023, Kature Urupa, Attachment A, to be presented to Council for formal consultation via the special consultative procedure, and 3, note that the draft Cemeteries Bylaw 2023 and associated statement of proposal will be presented to the 10th of August 2023 full Council meeting. That's what's in front of us this afternoon. Councillors, staff, thank you. Would you like to speak to the report before we ask questions of the Council?
Kia ora koutou. I'd like to take the report as read, please, and just point out 2 minor things, not minor, 2 points. The key point for this bylaw is not the materiality of the changes being proposed right here and now. It's that it has a very close interaction with the Cemeteries Handbook. And so that's just something to be acknowledged as we go through this process, that these two instruments speak to each other quite closely. So no doubt there may be some questions along those lines, but just highlighting that that's probably the distinction with this bylaw as compared to ones you've seen recently. The second point is just acknowledging a text omission at paragraph 15 of the report. There's a sentence where the end of it's been left off. The disadvantage to not recommending the bylaw to council is that the bylaw will lapse. It just sort of ends that sentence. So apologies for that omission, and happy to take any questions prior to moving to the recommendations.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your work on the report. With the cemeteries bylaw and what's in front of us today, I think one thing that I've picked up, and I guess in my time in recent years on council, is the changing nature and the growing nature of our community, which brings people of different nationalities, different religions into our community, and the flexibility of this bylaw is critical that it takes that into account. And I know that in the past that has been the case with moving into more of an accepted bylaw that caters for everybody of every race, every religion. So on that note, councillors, any questions of staff around item number 1 here? Councillor Guy.
Through the chair, if I may, thank you. These may be things that I've spoken to in the handbook, so perhaps it's just some further understanding for myself. Sextons, are they appointed by, like, where does that role fit within our community? Is that a council appointment, a funeral director's appointment?
Mr. Chair, I'll let Tassie answer that question with the expertise in that area.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kirsty Kunchis. I'm the Park Officer responsible for cemeteries and heritage. So those who don't know me. So I've been working very closely with the policy team on this bylaw, obviously, because I'm the one that helps enforce it. So with sextons specifically, the way that our council does it is we contract out those services to a selected contractor. So actually I sit within the contracts team, and that's a part of that. So we don't have in-house sextons. Some councils do have in-house sextons. Ours are contracted out, but it's a process that we engage through the parks contracts team. Yeah. So,
yeah. And then yes, just reinforcing what Councillor Ferguson said around the multicultural considerations. I know there's been some really excellent work done by council staff recently, and some of the more diverse interment requests that we have, and being so immediately responsive to those. So really appreciate the agility that's been shown there. I suppose around that bit, I was questioning the out of district 3 month in a hospital consideration that's talked about in the draft bylaw. So my interpretation of that is that if that's a resident who's had to go to Dunedin or something for care, what happens outside of those kind of timeframes? Is that merely a difference in fees, or how do we consider a sliding scale of who is and who isn't resident?
So I had been asked to put in a bit more detail around that because of the sort of growing population that we have, as well as the population that comes perhaps seasonally or just as visitors. So we were trying to expand on that specific area where there have been a few questions. However, and perhaps more is needed, perhaps actually in the handbook specifically, that this could be sort of better defined. But essentially the idea is that if you have been a ratepayer in the district, even if you have a property here and a property elsewhere, if you have a property here and you've paid rates for a set period of time, I mean, that qualifies. So even if you've done it in the past and you've had to leave the district for whatever reason, for instance, older age and perhaps moving closer to children, we'll still accept the fact that you have spent time in that district, in this district, towards that sort of waiving the out of district fee. So the out of district fee is specifically what that speaks to, and that's currently set at $600, just a flat fee for out of district. And it's to compensate for those who haven't been living in the district but want to be interred here. So
thank you. And probably just one last small point: operational service personnel and partners. Is that like military? Are they extended that right across the country, or is that a localized kind of?
It's across the country. Yeah, so the definition of who qualifies for that actually comes direct from Veterans Affairs. Because they subsidize even the plaques, so they'll pay for the plaques and everything. So we get our instructions, our definitions, I suppose, direct from them in terms of who qualifies. Yeah. And they'll check for us if there's any question.
Thank you. It was really interesting reading, I have to say. So thanks. Jeez, need a lot of it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Guy. Darcy, just my apologies for not acknowledging you.
That's okay.
You moved to the table. Apologies about that. Any other questions from
Just
councillors? Yes.
how many cemeteries are there in the district?
There's 10 operational and there's 12 all in total. One is a trust run cemetery that's out in Highway Ave, and the other one is just historical. It's actually in the Albertown campground.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we have 10.
And now with regard to the sale of plots, can people buy a plot in advance? Or
Not currently, not the way that the policy in the handbook is currently written, no. I believe that was a decision that was made because of the issues around capacity and the potential for people to buy up volumes of plots in advance, which would lead us to need to build more infrastructure, some more beams, to try and compensate for the plots that are being purchased but not utilized. So, not currently.
Councillor Wong.
Just through the chair, it's probably not specific to this, but just really interested, what are the biggest challenges in running cemeteries? Because I know nothing about cemeteries and how to run them.
My gosh, pick one.
The biggest ones. Top three.
Top three. Planning, future planning, so balancing that whole capacity issue with demand. I'd say that's one. Probably just the operational logistics, because we have a lot of historic cemeteries, which is wonderful, because we have amazing history, rich history here, but it leads to interesting complications in terms of record keeping and whether or not certain plots are available or not, things like that. And then, yeah, I mean, I suppose-
I think the other thing, councillor, just adding to Tazi's list would be growth.
Yeah.
So diversity, but also just the area of natural burials. People are looking for other choice.
Yeah.
So there's a range of services that have been asked of us since this pilot was last looked at in 2017.
That's through the chair. Are we reaching capacity on a lot of things we're talking about?
In some cemeteries, yes. So for instance, Queenstown, Frankton, and Arrowtown are pretty close to being closed, I guess you could say. Whereas we did build the Lower Shotover Cemetery not too long ago, 2018. And so that was designed to sort of be a newer cemetery that would compensate for the volume going into that location. But again, goes back to planning ahead. You're going to need, 20 to 50 years out, the future plans for where the land's going to be and what's going to be utilized as a cemetery in the future.
Just through you, Chair, adding to that, councillor. So on the current forecast, you've got the capacity for the next period. It's beyond the 20 plus to 50 years that we would need to, particularly if we hit the growth sort of predictions and forecasts for the district.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just like to expand on one thing. You had kindly asked about buying in advance. We do allow adjacent plot purchases. So if somebody has an interment, a family can purchase at that time an adjacent plot for future family use. I just want to make sure. Clarify.
Councillor Guy.
Are we seeing an increase in requests for different types of interment around the natural sort of vertical interments and without caskets or anything like that? I know it's quite a paradigm changing time frame and how we view interments and handle deaths. Have we seen any change in that?
I wouldn't say any sort of demand in terms of the vertical interment specifically. Definitely yes on natural burials. That's been asked for several times. Other queries kind of involving newer technologies. So for instance, alkaline hydrolysis, which is AKA water cremation, as opposed to the fire cremation. That's a more, I know we can get deep here. There's a whole sort of new technological movement in terms of how you can handle body disposition. And so those types of things have been inquired upon because of their sort of sustainability aspects. Yeah.
Thank you.
You took my question around natural burials. So any further questions? No. Right. Well, we'll get to the resolution required. I'll just repeat so we're all clear that the Community and Services Committee note the contents of this report and recommend to council that it endorses the draft cemeteries bylaw 2023, Kature Urupa, to be presented to council for formal consultation via the special consultative procedure. 3, note that the draft cemeteries bylaw 2023 and associated statement of proposal will be presented to the 10th of August 2023 full council meeting. Anyone like to move our resolution? Councillor Wong. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tucker. Just raise your right hands in favour. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Thank you for your work.
Fascinating.
Cemetery chats anytime.
No.
Rightio, we move on to agenda item number 2, the Queenstown Golf Club additional tree removal request. And Brianna is joining us at the table, our Parks and Open Spaces Planning Manager. The purpose of this report is to consider a request to remove 50 trees from the Queenstown Golf Club on the Kelvin Peninsula in Queenstown. Resolution required that the Community and Services Committee note the contents of this report. Number 1. Number 2, note that the following request was considered per the Queenstown Lakes District Council Tree Policy 2022, including replacing any removed tree with 2 trees, and 3, approve the request by the Queenstown Golf Club to remove approximately 50 Douglas fir trees within their lease area on the Queenstown Golf Course Recreation Reserve on the Kelvin Peninsula. Brianna, welcome to the table. Good to see you again. Would you like to speak to your report?
Yeah, kia ora everyone. Just wanted to, through the chair, add that I do have a photo of the additional 50 trees that they were, just in case everyone hasn't seen it and that was taken up. There's just been a lot of work done recently on the golf club, and this is just the additional and the remaining trees that they want to fell after this. That will look to implement the replanting plan, which is part of the program attached to this report.
Thank you, Brianna. Just to fill in councillors that are here, this is the second tranche of work to be done, isn't it? The first tranche was done
In May.
Previous council. Was it? Oh, that's right. It
Just
was,
in May.
the resolution happened with the previous council, wasn't it?
Yes, resolution happened the end of last year,
Yep.
and they've just completed the work there, around 400 trees.
Yeah. And prior to the meeting around those trees in 2022, I paid a visit out to the golf club with Athol Stevens, the manager. He took me for a drive. Always good to see firsthand when it comes to trees, what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. It's been a bit of a process for them as custodians of the course to make the course as they want to see it, and how possibly it should have been right at the beginning, but trees were planted. And they came up with this plan, which, as I mentioned, the previous council were part of getting the resolution through. And this is just the second tranche of an area that's basically just a little bit smack bang in the middle of the course, really. And this is the final bit of work I think that they want done as it sits currently. So, councillors, any questions of staff? Councillor Wong.
Thank you, through the chair. Just that this agrees when you went to consultation with the 27 submissions. Just wondering what the comments might have been from that very small percentage that disagreed with the removal.
Through the chair, there were just some comments there about making sure that they do tidy it up properly and make sure that the stumps are ground down in areas. Also just some comments on, because they were in that original approval, I think it was off the top of my head, the majority were Douglas fir, but there were some other exotic species, and they just had some concerns about killing the exotic species. But some of them were of ill health as well, so that's why they were removed.
Brianna, sorry. Brianna, what's been the working relationship between council and the golf club with that first tranche of work done?
It's been great, and they are caretakers of the site. They've done a great job today felling all the trees. We've been out there recently to meet with them, and now they're excited about replanting and looking to the future. Like even this area where they're felling the 50 trees, it's a great area where they'll be able to plant a grove of natives within that. Yeah, so good working relationship at present.
Great. Any other questions, councillors?
I'm just going to add, Chair, through you, the point that Brianna mentioned, the first tranche We work closely with what the Reforestation Trust through the club. They've taken on board all the sentiment and comment of the council of the day. And they appreciated the scale of what we're dealing with, but we've certainly met commitments that were set out as part of our sign off to progress. So I think it's just worth noting.
Right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
No more questions. We'll move to the resolution. I repeat that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report. 2, note that the following request was considered per the Queenstown Lakes District Council Tree Policy 2022, including replacing any removed tree with 2 trees. And 3, approve the request by the Queenstown Golf Club to remove approximately 50 Douglas fir trees within their leased area on the Queenstown Golf Course Recreation Reserve on the Kelvin Peninsula. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guy. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bruce. In favour, raise your right hand. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Brianna. Hope you're mending well. Good to see. Item number 3, which is the Warren Park Development Plan. Report's author is Jessica Hughes Hutton, Parks and Reserves Planner, and Jenny Galabasi. Nice to see you both, ladies. Senior Parks and Reserves Planner. The purpose of this report is to obtain Community and Services Committee endorsement of the Warren Park Development Plan. Resolution required that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, adopt the Warren Park Development Plan included with this report as attachment A. Afternoon, Jessica and Jeannie. And any words before we see if there's any questions from councillors?
I'll just speak briefly to the minor changes that we've made to the development plan since the collation of the public feedback. And apologies, I'm losing my voice a little bit. So the first one is addressing the concern from some of the members of the public around this plan not retaining the big open space that Warren Park currently has. So what we have done is removed some of the coloured ovals on the zoning plan, which is on page 7, just to make it more obvious that we are in fact retaining the open space for informal community sports and activities. The second change was making the basketball court a full court as opposed to a half court. And then the third change was including a dog area and noting that this is a high level concept plan. So the dog area is just, the placement and size of it is just indicative. And then finally, you would have all received an additional submission earlier this morning. And that submission was not included in attachment B of the report, along with the survey responses, but hopefully you've all had a chance to read that.
Yes, has been received and read. Thank you. I think councillors, we've had this in front of us before, a look through and a look over and a chance to give some direction possibly. So any questions of staff before we get to the resolution? Councillor Wong.
Actually, the letter from Erna today was actually quite interesting because it raises a few points that were covered in a lot of the submissions. Just wondering around some of those points like car parking, I think noise abatement was one of them with the amphitheatre seating and the open space you talked about already, but there was also a comment around costs and whether this is the right time to do it. So when will we be thinking about the costs incurred to council, I guess, to build this out?
Yeah, a lot of those questions would be answered if we get to detailed design, which is all reliant on whether budgets are approved. So have you had your annual plan deliberations? This might feature as a very small part of those wider deliberations. So essentially, we want to be proactive with our planning and have our strategy for the improvement of these reserve spaces done so that when there is budget made available, and that's ultimately up to the wider council, then we're ready to go.
Do you want to address the car parking piece as well, which seemed to come up quite a bit in submissions as well?
Yeah, I guess as with all recreation reserves in a CBD location, it's balanced between sufficient car parking for the reserve versus car parking that might be used by adjacent residents in a high density area who enjoyed lots of car parking related to the high school previously. So again, that will feature at the detailed design stage, exactly how many car parks are appropriate. So it is indicative that in the developing stage.
Thank you. Happy. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, through the chair. Just picking up on some of the submission points around, a lot of them did point to that maintaining an open space environment. So thank you for the reflection on that. It being available for film use and the comments around power supply into their lighting, hydrants, those sort of points. Is there anything to speak to there around, I know it's not at a design level yet, but is there any consideration around perhaps constraints to that where we just go, that's not something because of our infrastructure services that is going to be able to be addressed at that later design point? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So I guess there's two parts to that. There was the hot extra hydrant, which we actually had a meeting with the volunteer fire brigade not long after the public submission period closed, and they really supported this plan, and they just wanted to reiterate that they would love to see a hard stand area and an additional fire hydrant to enable their training. And then, yeah, for filming purposes, we had a similar feedback when we were doing the Queenstown Gardens development plan from Luma and the event organisers who, you know, really keen to see that higher phase power supply so they don't have dodgy extension cords running everywhere. So again, that would be done at the detailed design phase, sorry, where we would look at what available infrastructure there already was and if it was compatible with that future infrastructure that was there. I imagine being in town in an area that is being intensified, that should be a straightforward thing. And then the fire service said that they wouldn't expect council to necessarily provide the fire hydrant. That's something that they could do. So it's really about enabling a variety of different activities and avoiding conflicts that might come up with, you know, large events. There was quite a few submissions saying that they, you know, there's obviously some support for community scale events, but not necessarily the big commercial music festival and things. So it's just
sort of community.
Yeah, just sort of finding that balance again and providing an indication of what community and council think is appropriate here.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, just a question through the chair, of course. The existing cricket pitch, I presume it's practice nets. So it's quite safe, but you get a heavy hitter like Ferg in there.
Like if I can hit the ball.
It's quite safe with barbecue area and playground area. Close by, relatively close by.
That is a very good point. That would need to be looked at.
Yeah.
The cricket pitch was left in there for now because it might be 10 years until some of these improvements are made. But again, the appropriateness of if those other improvements are funded and are implemented, then yeah, whether or not that's compatible with the cricket nets would be looked at then. But it's a really good point, but we didn't see value in taking them away at the stage when they're already there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a great match for what's developing down there. You know, when you think of what Warren Park used to be, and you know, even going back from my time arriving here, you know, it's not dump. And then, of course, the high school, and that's since moved, and we've got the Kaitahu development. And I think, you know, in a place that's pretty close to town, not so far away from the hallowed turf of the red ground, we've got this area. If you look at the drawing, the maps in front of us, you know, that caters for so much for that community that will be down there, and for others who want to enjoy it from the community. There's a whole host of things that can happen here. Dog area, I take encouragement from the relook at the open space that came through in the submission phase. I just think once, you know, and once again, I think we get to this position where we've got an opportunity, so we'll start it. Might not be this council that finishes it, but we'll start it for others to knock it on the head for the better of the community at some point into the future. So we hope that happens. So I think this is really positive. Well done. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor.
Comment to follow yours, more so than a question, but I agree. I think it's a really inspired space and really well thought through, and just be an incredible asset, which would help people get together on that important social infrastructure. But it's nice to see a really good intent around your conversations and how wide-reaching you've been and how much you're trying to bring into it. So I just really highly commend you on your efforts. It's great job.
Yes, Councillor.
Probably just one last vote for adding to the concept planting palette, strongly in favour of the performance of winternails and hawara plums in the district. They grow really well. So,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Well done. Well done. Okay, we'll get to the resolution required on item number 3, that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, adopt the Warren Park Development Plan included with this report as attachment A. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tucker. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bruce. In favour, right hands up. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff. And we'll move on to our 4th and final item here. The memorial plaque and seat request for Angus Small at Millbrook.
There we go.
Wow.
It's
Welcome back, Tarsi. Tarsi's joined us at the table. Now, the purpose of this report is to consider approving of a memorial plaque and seat in the Millbrook Ground Reserve for Angus Small, born 1975, passed away way too young in 2021. The resolution required that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, approve a memorial plaque and seat in the Millbrook Cricket Ground Reserve for Angus Small. The exact location within the reserve to be determined by the Queenstown Lakes District Council Parks team in consultation with the Millbrook Cricket Club. Tarsi, speak to the report at all.
Yep, absolutely. So the family is a multi-generational family, been in Arrowtown for quite a while. And I did, in the process of going through their information to sort of check with everybody, I did speak to the Arrowtown Village Association. They were very much in support of, honestly, promoting as many memorials as they're come through, basically. And then when I spoke to Millbrook, they were very excited to be able to have a family represented on their shared reserve. Yeah, so everyone was very much in support.
Any questions from councillors? Councillor Wong.
Are there many examples of this happening or occurring, or requests for this?
Yeah. So plaques on park furniture is probably our most frequent request we get for a type of memorial. What we currently offer is either a plaque on a pre-existing or the purchase of a brand new asset. So in this instance, the family was willing to purchase a brand new seat. I'd say volume wise, up to 10 a year maybe. So not a whole lot, but enough that we go through this process. Yeah.
Sorry, one more. Thank you through the chair. Just wondering, could you give us a bit of background to this family and the association with the area and how many generations? And
I only have up to, well, his mother and his grandparents, and I just have that he basically has worked in the district his entire life. So he worked for Real Journeys, shot over camera systems, et cetera, et cetera. So as far back as the family provided, it was the grandparents, and they have representation. The reason that they wanted to keep it in Arrowtown is because that family is represented in the Arrowtown Cemetery. So they had actually requested initially to have the memorial on top of Feely Hill. But that is a dock reserve and docks declined that request. So hence we've tried to find them a different location. So I suspect that beyond grandparents, there's probably been more family interred in that cemetery, but they didn't specify past grandparents. Yeah.
Yes,
Chair,
Cody.
just out of curiosity, as well, the life and furniture design, is there a design criteria around what the seat can be, given that they are funding it themselves?
We have a design standard that we use within parks. So it's just a standard seat furniture that we would usually install. So nothing too creative, unfortunately. Sorry.
No more questions, councillors? We'll get to the resolution. I repeat that the Community and Services Committee note the contents of this report and approve a memorial plaque and seat in the Millbrook Cricket Ground Reserve for Angus Small, the exact location within the reserve to be determined by the Queenstown Lakes District Council Parks team in consultation with the Millbrook Cricket Club. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guy. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wong. Right hands up in favour. Opposed? Carried. And before I just close the meeting, I'd just like to say condolences to the Small family. Passed away in 2021, but I think it's great that the name was put forward, continues on, and that the committee have moved it through to its natural conclusion. Thank you. We are 24 minutes to 3. Meeting closed.